Hello. Boy, when I do that, hello? No. Hello. Greetings and good now to all of you out there on LinkedIn, YouTube, and the app formerly known as Twitter website, formerly known as Twitter X. There's some mystery people out there who watch there. Maybe I should meet you sometime. Anyway, I am Ryan. This is Riffing with Ryan. And today on the This is an Agile Coach theme, I have one of my favorite guests and friends to speak with, Mr. Kyle Griffin Aretae. And I'll bring Kyle on stage here and ask him to say a few words about who he is, why he is, and the meaning of life in 30 seconds or so, and then we'll hit right on it. So, hello, Kyle.
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
I am seeking the meaning of life and hoping that you will bring it to me today.
Not a Hitchhiker's fan. Introduction. I'm Kyle. I've been in teaching and in software for 40 years. My topic is software maintainability most of the time. My other topic is humility.
Okay, software maintainability and humility. Boy, as opposed, I would love to go into that, but the question of the day, good Lord, man, what is an Agile coach?
Okay, that's a tricky one. The problem in the word, there's two sides to it. Question number one is, if you say what's an Agile coach, that's somebody who coaches Agile. The difficulty is that there's two standard meanings of the word coach, and they are fairly incompatible, or they're not quite incompatible. There's certainly a lot of skill overlap. But if you look at the question of what is a coach is somebody who does some amount of work getting a team to be better. It is on the edge of a leadership role. Sometimes it is a leadership role. When you look at sports, you look at a basketball coach, you look at a football coach. They are a leader making decisions some of the time. But an awful lot of the time, what they're doing is they are helping the team to be better. And so the traditional original use of the term coach was, I am a sports team coach and I help this team to be better. And mostly that's done by pointing at different approaches, helping the team to do things better, based on the coach's extensive experience in the field. The other side of the coaching question is, well, there's personal coaching or executive coaching. And in the case of executive coaching, what we see is a shift in approach where the model is, hey, I don't know your business as well as you do. I can't come in and say, here's what you should do instead. What I have to do is come in and ask questions instead in order to help direct your thinking. Essentially, in short, there's those two categories of coach, and there's real dispute in the community over which one. I'm a sports coach guy, flat out. That's not to say that the sports coach doesn't use the people or executive coaching techniques. But if I'm talking what is an Agile coach, I'm saying it's a sports coach. It was that way at the beginning, and it has been massively shifted, perhaps even corrupted, away from a sports coach model over the last 24 years, 23, whatever year it is. That's the question of coach. What about Agile? What's Agile? Well, there's an enormous amount of disagreement on the topic of Agile as well. People argue different things. I, for instance, have a great deal of difficulty understanding how you can put something like XP in the same category, XP, extreme programming, in the same category as something like SAFe. I think the foundations, I think the assumptions, I think the fundamentals are very different. When I talk agile from the foundation of essentially humility. We're gonna be wrong. How are we going to deal with the places that we're wrong? We're going to be wrong about the requirements. We're going to be wrong about the design. We're going to be wrong about the code. We're going to be wrong about whether the tests are sufficient. We're going to be wrong about whether our finished product is what the customer needed. We're going to be wrong about whether our finished product actually works. We're going to find those things out, A, only if we're looking for them, and B, only if we push, only if we actually use them and find out. So some of the time we're going to push a release and we're going to find out the release is broken. What's our system to figure out how to do that? Agile comes from the theory that you're going to be wrong. You're going to have to update your plans. Your whatever planning you did, you're going to get new information, and your old plan isn't going to be sufficient, and your old requirements aren't going to be sufficient, and your old everything isn't going to be sufficient, and we're going to have to change it. And so put those together. Agile means helping a team do better. Coaching is helping a team to do better by helping point at things they can do better. Do more of this, do less of that. You and I have talked, Ryan, about our favorite UCLA coach who was measured as like 75% of his total words were more of this, less of that, or some part of that sentence. And agile being, we are trying to address the question of how to respond effectively, given that we're going to be wrong a lot. That's an agile coach. I can't hear you at all.
Under the theme of responding to change, I'm going to turn off my mute button because I was trying to be silent while you were talking. Good Lord, man. It's not you, it's me. And we're hearing that. Okay. And I'm not even going to cut this out. I'm going to go whack. And so your agile coach first, your solo. Wrote some notes. I was going to go into John Wooden naturally. But again, we've talked about it, and again, that's maybe not interesting for those out there who don't get the sports thing. One topic that came up, you alluded to it in your solo. Do you think that this domain of agile coaching, as when it came about, depending on when you think the term happened, 2010 or 2003, has it been hijacked by this executive professional coaching, personal coaching bit?
Short version, yes. We know, like in 2001, Agile mostly meant extreme programming. And yes, there was a role, extreme programming coach, and it was somebody who could sit with the teams and write code with them and help them to write code in such a way as to produce better results. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. That's still the kind of agile coach I am.
Yeah. Embedded with the coders.
With the coders, helping them to do things. Do you have to be a coder? I have seen really good agile coaching without being a coder. Having said that, It's somebody who is multiplying the performance of a team via and I'm going to use this very intentionally, an awful lot of pointing out, hey, you're doing this thing, it's not effective. It's not.
And by this thing, you mean this human interaction, conversational kind of non-coding on the hands-on keyboard thing.
I've seen very effective coaches who don't touch the technical side of the problem, right? Okay. But nonetheless, they say, what you're doing here is you are letting every story roll over past the end of the sprint. If we're going to do Scrum, and maybe we don't want to do Scrum, but if we're going to do Scrum, you're not getting any of the benefit from Scrum if you're not going to actually finish things at the end of the sprint. Look.
Yeah, so that's a process coach, right? If I'm immediately thinking that's a process, that's someone who's coaching the elements of the system that are not coding or, again, we'll talk about agile outside of software, maybe.
So you just hit a favorite topic of mine. So once upon a time, I was talking agile coaching, and I said, hey, look, there's a bunch of different kinds of agile coaching, just like on a basketball team, right? I'm going to keep using basketball team. Pop is the overall coach, and he says who goes in and who goes out. Even though Oklahoma City stole him, Chip England was the shooting coach, and he fixed people's shots. He wasn't responsible for dribbling. On a football team, there's the offense coach and the defense coach, and they're the offensive coordinator and the team of coaches, and they're very different. And
position coaches and all.
And then you have front office people who are doing enterprise level decision making that aren't at this level, and yet that's still a coaching behavior. And so we have process coaches, we have technical coaches, we have human focused coaches, we have enterprise coaching. I consider those all real skills. The thing though is, if you're gonna coach, you kind of have to admit what kind of coach. So I don't necessarily want to say you have to be the specific kind of coach, but you kind of have to admit which kind of coach you are. I am a coach who comes in and says, look, you're doing these things in a way that doesn't move you towards that goal. If you want to go to this goal, then you have to fix this thing.
And as I understand your goal, I'm observing this, and the professional coaching folks that I've talked with, many of them say I'm holding the mirror up to the client. So in essence, when what you're saying, regardless of whether my work domain is software development or process excellence or business acumen or human factors and organizational development kind of stuff, you're saying here's what you look like in that domain to an observer, and based on my experience and in my expert opinion, and based on my level of discernment and expertise and skill and that stuff, this is what I see, right?
Yes. And so what you have to watch out for a couple things, because there are techniques for success, right? That doesn't mean I walk into a organization and say all of your code sucks, right? You're just bad at writing code, right? That's not the way you actually achieve the change, because we have to pay attention to the effectiveness of the coaching. Having said that, if I don't have some level of admission as a technical coach where I'm looking at it and going, this is wrong. I have 40 years of software experience, and what you're doing sucks. I don't have to say it that way, but I have to be able to note that and start trying to shift it and saying, well, you have 30 years of experience. I'm just going to stop and let you recognize that what you've been doing for 30 years sucks. Sorry.
And maybe not the best approach. No, so this and also comes up for me. So we're talking about the sports metaphor, right? And there are, and I think even in the music metaphor too, that there are folks, conductors or producers or like James Brown is notorious for coming into a studio session and saying, you're going to do this my way, bat, 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 do. And I've, you hear from the military stories. I've never served in the military. I don't know if you have, but the drill sergeant comes in, they tear them down, right? Tear you down to nothing and say, now we're going to build you up. Have you seen that in this domain of knowledge work and software development ever? I'm curious.
Not in a coaching role. I have seen people with a coaching background walk in and say, look, what we're doing is crap, right? This approach doesn't fundamentally work. We're just going to change what we're doing, right? And that is possible if there's enough alignment to actually do the thing, right? I was able to do quite a bit of change in how we did things when my role was CIO at a startup. Oh, you were doing things that way. We're not doing them that way anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's bad. That is not the standard coaching role. At the same time, I have been becoming suspicious for years now, but for years like 15, about whether the Toyota lean model of manager as coach isn't just better. Right? You rise up through a system, and because you have come up through the system, you know how the system works, and then you can be promoted, and your job is to help the other people who are less experienced than you in this system do well. Is that a better?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I wasn't saying much. Is that a better model? I think it might be, right? It's at least seductive.
Yeah. This kind, I think in that role, and I have to give a call out to Jan Fischbach, who sent me this paper about the Toyota chief engineer, right? So that's exactly what you're talking about. Someone who they have been an engineer, they have worked in various levels of projects, developing that technical expertise. So this almost is like the Bill Gates model. Bill Gates was totally, he was in the trenches at the beginning. And again, say what you say about Bill Gates. Ideologically, I'm not talking about that, but his technical expertise, he had the cred. He had credibility, and all at least until very recently, maybe when he was at Microsoft.
Technical founder model, right?
Yeah.
It's somebody who is enough in the weeds as a technical founder to say, no, we have to do this well, right? Amazon started off as a one-person shop, right? And so Bezos knows the workings of the system inside and out. So when he made it to C-suite, he knew an awful lot. Smaller organizations may find it. So the difficulty is, how do you bring in mid-level management? And the short answer is it's hard to. And right, if you're trying to run this system, because you're trying to build culturally from the ground. And so you start running into the culture strategy debates and all of that stuff. But I don't think I said much, but that it's an interesting direction.
Well, this is it's about, what we in the the beta codex domain talk about in this mastery based decision making, right? That
Yes.
the level of authority you have is based on your level of or the input to your informal authority, the primacy of that, of mastery and technical skill and technique and knowledge. That's the primary method of decision making.
Yeah.
And that if so, and that sounds like the Toyota bit. And what came to me while you were talking about that, the technical founder model. Well, it's natural that the technical founder will be maybe aware of agile software development and be able to communicate with software engineers on a peer-to-peer, similarly to a peer-to-peer level. But when we're talking about organizations that were born in finance, or born in agriculture, or born in cable television or whatever, that were not born on bits and bytes, but were born on wires and electricity, that injecting software into that, and bless Royce, for what it wasn't really waterfall. We can talk about that another time. But so in a business that was not born in software, then you eventually have Scrum teams, and then if the Scrum teams were built in 2010, they're different than the Scrum teams that were built in 2003, because the Scrum trainers were different.
Yeah.
But an agile coach an agile coach comes into a business that was not born in software, that's, I think, a different animal. And you have to have a different focus and a different awareness around that organizationally. That's my hypothesis. And does that ring true?
I kind of like that, but I'm gonna start half objecting.
Okay.
So I have a very simple foundation for Agile. Agile's founded on humility. I'm gonna be wrong.
Yeah.
None of software that comes out of finance is founded that way.
It must be right. Or else.
Our plan is right. We assume it's right. We assume that we can do enough upfront checking to make it right. There's a whole bunch of, we can make a 5-year plan and follow it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Which is as fallible as it is in software, but okay.
Yeah. I found that Russian 5-year plans didn't work very well a while back, and I find that business 5-year plans work just as poorly. The thing is, there's a fundamental transformation in goal. And one of the problems we face in the situation you're talking about is somebody says they want Agile, but Agile is a fad, and it's I'm going to look good to my peers, not look, Agile is fundamentally hypothesis-driven development, and how fast can you check your hypothesis? Mm-hmm. It is, I want to use the word Agile to do something that Agile is not fit for purpose. Now, other people will say, oh, well, you have a different purpose, so we want a different Agile. My line is, you have a different purpose, so that's not Agile. Great. I love that you would do something else. Yeah. Just stop calling it Agile, because it's not even close.
Yeah. That sounds like the scaled X framework you're talking about, maybe a little bit, possibly. Or not.
I was not making claims. My expectation, right? I wrote a book on Scrum. I've been doing Scrum since nobody's willing to do the real Agile XP stuff. But I've been doing Scrum for a long time. I think I know what it's about. Mm-hmm. I walk into an organization that claims we have been doing Agile for 5 years, and they have stand-ups. And their stand-ups aren't doing any sort of collaboration. They are pure reporting to either the manager or the architect, or we may actually call the person in charge a product owner, but it's a pure reporting model. It's not a collaboration model. Stand-ups are built for collaboration and synchronization. That's what they're for, right?
Yeah.
And so what we have is a status meeting hiding, renamed as a thing, because they're not doing hypothesis-driven development. They're doing, I'm going to follow my plan for 5 years or 6 months or whatever. And I want to say we're doing something that's agile. And so we use agile clothes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like somebody says, hey, we're going to go do comedy. And so they put on a clown suit and they go to their office and work in their cube.
You're talking about agile theater, right?
My experience is legitimately 80% of what I've seen is agile theater. It's not agile theater. It's people said, I want agile, not I want an outcome. Yeah. And with no clarity of outcome, with no shared goal, then what ends up happening is the underlying system goals, the underlying system incentives take over. And so the manager's bonus is attached to delivering X software on time and on budget with these features. Yep. Where is there room for agile in on time, on budget, fixed features? Well, I don't see room for hypothesis.
No. So again, but before we go to the landing question, this totally comes to mind, is that the things you're talking about, these observations, and that what you have gained in terms of knowledge and experience and patterns of success in software development in organizations of various sizes. And then when you get a gig and that job rec says agile coach on it, and they hire you for that gig, and again, the terms of that gig are what I'm thinking about, is that you were hired to do a gig. Were you hired to observe the entire organization and affect change on those factors that you're talking about in terms of the status seeking, affiliation seeking, middle to upper management, and that, you asked for agile, but you're wrong. You're asking for something else. And the hubris of that is immense. And I think Ian McKinnon said also about the Institute of Dunning-Kruger, right? So as an agile coach, hired to help teams get better, software development teams get better according to whatever systemic requirements are there. What is the responsibility of an agile coach to attempt to affect organizational change?
So there's two things going on, right? It's hard to keep your question individual because, again, there's the term agile. Agile has 15 different meanings, but they're all pretty close to an organization that can turn gracefully. Yeah. Right? I'll switch my words every week on that, but an organization can turn gracefully is what agile is about. Number one question is anybody bringing me in to try to get an organization that can turn gracefully, or a team that can turn gracefully? Or are they misusing the term agile? Right? That's question number one. Because if you hire me as an agile coach and you want a project manager to keep everything on track according to the plan we made 12 months ago, then you're lying about what you want. So that's question one. In that case, I look for a new job.
Yeah.
I say, oh, you were wrong about what you wanted. I'm an agile coach. You want a project manager with some certification or title and a little bit of experience, but no opinions or anything.
Yeah.
Cool. You got the wrong guy.
Yeah.
The second question is, if they did hire me to be agile and they asked me to work with this team, can I solve the primary problems that are preventing this team from being agile inside the team? If you hired me to help this team be agile, and the problem is the testing organization, and sometimes it takes me 6 or 9 months to figure out where the single point diagram of where the primary failure is. What happens if we have a organization where we could have fast turnaround, but our testing organization has a different opinion and doesn't want to play? Right?
Yeah.
And so I can go request to test. I can get the team to go request to test in 2 days. And then it's an 8-week test cycle. Then effectively nothing I'm doing in the team is relevant anymore.
You're doing sub-optimization, right?
Yeah. Right? I can take my team from 2 days to 1 day, which will have 0% impact on the total outcome. And so I have trouble at this point, again, 20 odd years into the agile thing, not looking outside the team. I grant that that's not what somebody maybe hired me to do. At the same time, if they want me to fix this, I can tell them, well, 90% of the problem is here, and 3% of the problem is there, and 2%, and the remaining 1% is inside the team.
Boy, when you talk about the word that comes to mind, the work that you're doing, it's detective work.
Yeah.
It's archaeology, it's anthropology, it's sociology, it's all those kinds of things that I'm sorry, Bob, I have not looked at the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. I'm sorry, but I don't know if those skills are on there to be able to, again, to look at history, use your expertise in many domains to do that work, to put the mirror on. Right. And hopefully you were hired by a person who understood that and said, I know there's a problem. I need someone to go in there and observe what's happening with team A, team B, team C, and the environment to say what's happening. So, and maybe that means that word that we are using, that there's no such thing as, it needs some kind of change, some kind of communication about the responsibility that's being asked of the person that you're hiring or promoting within, a domination hierarchy, to say, I'm not asking you to coach Agile because I don't give two craps about Agile. I'm asking you to help me understand how to help this organization do something amazing. That's what I want you to do.
I mean, so once upon a time in the last 9 months, I came up with my taxonomy of what an organization might be trying to optimize in software, right? My taxonomy, basically, I assigned colors to it, but and I worked with Tom Malash and Erica Lenz on it. The taxonomy is
this is the yellow. Okay.
Yes.
Right. So
basically says some organizations, in fact, all schools teach this, and then most organizations have a theory that says, I want to finish a fixed set of things on time. That's the goal. Legitimately, 80% of all software organizations I've run into, the way most of the people in the organization are thinking is fix these things on time. Okay, cool. There's a different group of people. I've been in a few organizations like this where they say, I don't care if any of the things get fixed. I care that you don't break anything new.
Okay. I really hope there's a third class of organization.
Well, there's 2 or 3 more classes.
Yeah.
Retailers, the month before Black retailers in November, online retailers in November, I think they're all stability centric, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I'd like to be able to deploy quickly. I don't care. Don't break anything. Hey, we'd like to get this thing done on time. Don't care. Don't break anything, right? That's a legitimate point of view. And I've seen organizations that take that very seriously. Third on the list is, this doesn't seem as cost effective as it should. I want some general efficiency improvement. I want to get more code out of my developers. Right? That's a real answer.
It's factory process optimization sounds like.
Yeah. It's not till the weird group that comes next of, hey, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to satisfy the customer, or even more so, the user of the system. Right? Those are 4 real goals. Legitimately, they're all goals that you could have when developing software as an organization. And Agile, as far as I can tell, just assumed that the goal should be satisfy the user of the software. And so did I for a very long time. And as of the last 9 months or so, I realized that satisfy the user is fairly low on the prioritization list compared to finish on time, keep it stable, or effectively save money for the organization, right? Those are higher priority goals as far as I can tell. Or save money isn't the right way of saying it, right? I said that wrong because I haven't talked about this in a couple weeks. The way that it's probably best said is legibility.
Yeah.
An organization, managers and project managers and directors are rewarded for knowing what's going on and being able to explain what's going on up the chain usefully. And so the ability to say, this project is yellow, is perhaps more valuable than any value the user gets from the project.
What? And I want to add to legibility there, and to that it's table stakes. There's legibility, and then there's literacy. I think we talked about that before, but it's about, okay, so now we all see that, and we all know what yellow means. And it's not like putting amber, like shades of amber, 50 shades of gray in your in your code, but to know what yellow means and what to do about it. I mean, that's a level of, okay, so I can read the hiragana, I can pronounce it, and I can put the words together, and I know sentence structure and this kind of thing, that the organizational vocabulary and language and increasing level of literacy, and maybe that's, and again, I forget the taxonomy, I'm sorry, but beyond legibility, there's that understanding.
I think that's a worthwhile thing. I'm maybe diagonal from you here.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, if you have to make trade-offs, what does an organization make trade-offs to choose versus what will they give up? And I have seen organizations make trade-offs to say, finish it on time. And I have seen organizations make trade-off to say, don't break anything.
Yeah.
And I've seen organizations make a lot of trade-offs for management needs to be able to explain the current state of the project in small words.
Yeah. To the executive sponsors, to the steering committee, to all of it.
I have seen way too many cases where the ability to explain what's going on to the executives is higher priority than providing value to users.
Well, why would you go through 10 different revisions of a PowerPoint deck to explain the same project 3 days in a row?
But it's a useful thing. I don't think enough of us pay attention to the fact that no, that is a higher priority.
It's a human need for the folks who have risen to that level to maintain their affiliation and to keep their status and to have a sense of mind, a sense of peace of mind, because God damn it, managers are people too.
Well, and this is their job, right?
Yeah.
They are paid to do this thing.
Yeah.
It is interesting to me that I assumed that serving the user was what we were building software for, and that we would subordinate other goals to that. And that
you naive person.
Seem to be true. Yeah. The best modern software people go beyond serve the user needs. The best modern people, the people who I would call, they have taken Agile and transcended it. They are willing to serve the customer less well in the short term in order to discover more, right? They have started looking at unearthing information as primary and solving as secondary. The ability to deploy something and then deploy something at 5 p.m., come back in the morning and have the information about how that impacted the users. I don't care that what I deployed is right. I care that I learn something from deploying it. And when you switch from user serving to information gathering as your primary development activity, right?
Yeah.
Deploying software is an information gathering tactic first and a customer serving tactic second. Whoa. But really,
that's a flip. Yeah.
Right? I mean, the tip of that iceberg is in lean startup. But it's grown a great deal since. And what we can do today compared to what we used to be able to do when Reese wrote the book is a whole different game. And so I consider that a category past what most folks in Agile have taken seriously.
So and again, I know we're at time, but I have to bring this one thing in because I discovered it recently. I saw this interview with a futurist music critic guy named Ted Gioia, and interviewer, YouTube personality named Rick Beato. So Rick interviewed Ted Gioia, and there's a statement in there that you brought up for me, is that entertainment gives you what you want. This kind of, I'm entertaining the customer. I'm giving the customer what they want. Art makes demands on you. So in other words, that I'm as an artist, as a software artist, I'm going to say that it helps. This really is going to help you. You got to trust me. It's going to make a demand on you to endure maybe not getting this feature, but because I am going to create this resilient, robust telemetry about software deployment and all this kind of stuff, that capability is going to serve you better. And you will be enriched for it. So that's the art of it versus, hey, I'm just going to do what you want. I'm going to do it as fast as you want. And there you go.
Yeah. It's worth asking. And my new line when I walk into an organization is, you said you wanted an agile coach. Okay. I don't believe there's any two people on the planet who agree with what that means.
Exactly.
So when you say you want an agile coach, what goal are we willing to trade off other goals against?
Yeah.
And does that resemble something near what I'm interested in doing, as that, like, if it's near the agile thing or the discovery thing, I'm interested. And if it's not, then you probably want somebody else.
Ooh, on that, I think I'll pause. We'll breathe for a moment. I'll do to say that the next part of this conversation, which I love talking with you always, is I have this desire to host what I call dangerous conversations. In some place, in some point in the future, and what I call that, I was asked to define that a little bit, is that a kind of conversation that might have reputational risk, that might require a risk in private, even of offending someone, and maybe deeply offending someone to challenge beliefs and values and that kind of something that you wouldn't feel comfortable doing in public. But if there were a place where you could convene with others who you might, jam with and create some kind of, fantastic reaction out of, that I think is a dangerous conversation. And my theory is that it would be productive of something. So then the question to you is, within this community that is not a community that we have called Agile, what's a dangerous conversation that you'd be interested in being involved with? What do you want to have?
I mean, the most dangerous agile conversation, it's ongoing, it remains part of the thing. What counts as out of bounds for agile? Very specifically, it's not agile if. I don't know that there's much beyond that, but hey, if you focus on process over individuals and interactions, does that make you not agile? If you focus on following a plan rather than adapting to change, does that make you not agile? If you focus on finishing the predefined stuff rather than figuring out what stuff you should have been doing instead, like, where's the boundaries of agile? If I was going to pick a dangerous conversation topic, the ability to say, nope, that's not even close to agile, is probably my number one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for your time and attention and to be here in this space. And I'll be thrilled to host the next time that we do this, whether it's in a safe space for dangerous conversation or whether it's just kind of here. And I'll chat with you in the green room here in a moment to let us land.
Sounds good. And it's always great to talk with you, Ryan.
Thanks, Kyle. Thank you also for the precious gift of your time and attention. Again, I love talking with Kyle, and it's always surprising, always engaging, always enriching. It has been from the first time I ever heard his voice over the phone. And with that, it's been great being here with you. I'm Ryan Erickson, riffing with Ryan. We'll see you next time.